The roar of the crowd was deafening. Michael, a young man barely out of his teens, cheered alongside his buddies. They were at a Calgary Flames game, caught up in the electrifying atmosphere. As the puck soared across the ice, a man approached. He introduced himself as Brock. Brock was friendly. He seemed successful. He talked easily, flashing a winning smile. As luck would have it, he was also a fellow Manitoban. Brock and Michael discovered they had both entered a sweepstakes. They laughed, amazed to find they'd both won tickets to the game. The coincidence felt like fate. As the game ended, a bond had formed. They exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch. Little did Michael know this chance encounter would change his life forever. It was a change that wouldn't come from friendship, but from something far more sinister. Over the next few weeks, Michael and Brock talked frequently. Brock seemed to live a charmed life. He spoke of business ventures and luxurious vacations. He often treated Michael to expensive dinners and outings. Michael, struggling to make ends meet, found himself drawn to Brock's charisma and apparent wealth. Brock was a breath of fresh air, a beacon of excitement in Michael's otherwise ordinary life. He seemed like the friend Michael never knew he needed. Their conversations often drifted to their shared hometown of Brandon, Manitoba. Brock revealed he was planning to move back soon. He painted a picture of new beginnings and exciting opportunities. Michael, feeling stuck in a dead-end job, listened with growing interest. The seed of a life-altering decision was planted. He had no idea he was being drawn into a web of deception. Brock's move to Brandon came first. He had always been the adventurous type, eager to explore new opportunities and embrace change. He found a spacious apartment, one that seemed to reflect his newfound success and aspirations. It was a testament to his supposed wealth, a symbol of the life he wanted to project. He called Michael often, regaling him with tales of his new life, painting a picture of success and excitement. He spoke of business deals and hinted at lucrative opportunities, making it all sound so enticing. The more Brock talked, the more Michael felt the pull towards Brandon, the allure of a fresh start. His own life in Calgary seemed to pale in comparison, lacking the excitement and promise that Brock described. Weeks later, Michael decided to take the plunge. He couldn't ignore the growing desire for change. He packed his belongings and said goodbye to his old life, ready to embrace the unknown. He arrived in Brandon with a mix of excitement and apprehension, unsure of what lay ahead. Brock was there to greet him, all smiles and promises, ready to help him settle in. He helped Michael find an apartment, a small but cozy place not far from his own, ensuring they stayed close. Michael was grateful for Brock's help, feeling a sense of relief and comfort in his friend's support. He saw it as the gesture of a true friend, someone who genuinely cared about his well-being. True to his word, Brock helped Michael find work, easing his transition into the new city. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave Michael a sense of purpose. The job involved making deliveries, often late at night, adding an element of mystery to his routine. The packages were never opened, their contents always a mystery, which began to gnaw at Michael's curiosity. Michael felt a flicker of unease, a nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that there was more to the job than met the eye. But Brock, with his easy charm and reassuring words, always managed to quell his doubts, making everything seem normal. The deliveries became more frequent. The pay increased, making it harder for Michael to question the arrangement. Michael found himself being drawn deeper into Brock's world, unable to resist the pull of easy money. He justified his growing unease by telling himself he was just being paranoid, that everything was fine. After all, Brock was his friend, someone he trusted implicitly. Friends looked out for each other, didn't they? That was the foundation of their relationship. He pushed down the nagging suspicion that he was in over his head, trying to focus on the positives. He was about to discover just how deep the rabbit hole went, and how unprepared he was for what lay ahead. As weeks turned into months, Michael settled into his new life in Brandon. The small town, with its quiet streets and friendly faces, began to feel like home. He and Brock were inseparable, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They spent their days exploring the town, discovering hidden gems and local secrets. Their nights were filled with laughter at bars and restaurants, enjoying the vibrant nightlife Brandon had to offer. Always with Brock footing the bill, a gesture Michael appreciated but found increasingly puzzling. Life was good, at least on the surface. They seemed like the perfect pair of friends. But beneath the veneer of camaraderie, a seed of doubt had been sown in Michael's mind. The late-night deliveries continued, each one more mysterious than the last. The packages remained shrouded in mystery, their contents unknown and unexplained. Brock, usually so open, became evasive when Michael questioned their contents. His demeanor changed, and he seemed to be hiding something. He would shrug, offering vague explanations of business deals and favors for friends, but his words lacked the usual conviction. His answers, once reassuring, now rang hollow in Michael's ears. The trust between them began to erode. One night, after a particularly late delivery, Michael returned to his apartment to find a message on his answering machine. The tone of Brock's voice was different. It was Brock, his voice a low, urgent whisper. The urgency in his tone was unmistakable. He instructed Michael to meet him at a secluded motel on the outskirts of town. The location was unusual, adding to Michael's growing unease. He didn't explain why, only that it was important. The lack of details made Michael's mind race with possibilities. Michael felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't like Brock. Something was wrong, and he could feel it in his bones. Despite his growing unease, Michael found himself driving towards the motel. The road seemed longer and darker than usual. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into something dangerous. His heart pounded in his chest. His gut told him to turn around, but a stronger force, a morbid curiosity, compelled him forward. He needed to know the truth. He was about to witness something that would shatter his image of Brock forever. The moment of truth was near, something that would reveal the true nature of their friendship. The revelation would change everything. Section 4. A glimpse of violence. The motel, bathed in the sickly glow of a neon sign, cast long, eerie shadows across the parking lot. The air was thick with tension, an almost palpable sense of foreboding that made the hairs on the back of Michael's neck stand up. Michael parked his car and stepped out, his heart pounding in his chest. Each step he took felt heavier than the last, as if the ground itself was trying to hold him back. He spotted Brock's car, a sleek black sedan, parked near the end of the building. The sight of it sent a shiver down his spine, a stark reminder of why he was there. As he approached, he heard muffled voices coming from inside one of the rooms. The words were indistinct, but the tone was unmistakable. Angry, desperate. It sounded like an argument, heated and intense. The kind of argument that could only end badly. He knocked tentatively on the door, his knuckles barely making a sound against the wood. He almost hoped no one would hear it. The voices inside abruptly ceased. The sudden silence was more unnerving than the argument had been. A moment later, the door swung open, revealing Brock. His face was a mask of rage, his eyes burning with a cold fury. His face was flushed, his eyes blazing with a cold fury that made Michael take an involuntary step back. It was a look that promised violence. He'd never seen Brock like this. The man standing before him was a stranger, someone capable of things Michael didn't want to imagine. It was as if a mask had slipped, revealing a darkness that chilled him to the bone. A darkness that had always been there, lurking just beneath the surface. Before Michael could speak, a woman he'd never seen before rushed past him, fleeing into the night. Her face was a mask of terror. Brock didn't try to stop her. He just stood there, his chest heaving, his fists clenched, as if he was holding back a storm. He just stood there, his chest heaving, his fists clenched. The tension in the air was almost suffocating. Then, without warning, he punched the wall, the impact echoing through the room. The force of it left a dent in the plaster. Michael watched in stunned silence, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. This was a side of Brock he had never imagined. "Don't," Brock finally said, his voice low and menacing. The word hung in the air like a threat. "Don't ever tell anyone about this." The intensity in his eyes made it clear that this was not a request. The look in his eyes brooked no argument. It was a command, absolute and unyielding. Michael, still reeling from the shock of witnessing Brock's violence, could only nod mutely. His mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. He left the motel that night feeling shaken and afraid. The events of the evening replayed in his mind, each detail more horrifying than the last. The seed of doubt had blossomed into full-blown terror. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was in grave danger. He realized he didn't know Brock at all. The man he thought was his friend was a complete stranger, and he was in way over his head. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks, leaving him feeling more lost and alone than ever before. At this pivotal moment, the trap is finally sprung. The carefully laid plans come to fruition, and the consequences are immediate. The tension that has been building reaches its peak, and the stakes have never been higher. Now, the truth begins to unravel. Hidden motives and secrets are brought to light, and the real story behind the facade is revealed. It's a moment of clarity, where everything starts to make sense, and the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. The burden of confession weighs heavily. Admitting the truth is never easy, and the emotional toll is palpable. It's a moment of vulnerability, where honesty and regret come to the forefront, and the true cost of one's actions is fully realized. Finally, justice is served. The consequences of actions are met, and a sense of resolution is achieved. It's a moment of closure, where right and wrong are clearly delineated and the balance is restored. The journey has been long, but the end is, at last, in sight.